Welcome to the Conduit Club in London. I'm here with my colleague Stephen Revell. We find ourselves in London, so we thought it'd be a good chance to catch up and see what we're seeing in our various assignments for law firms. Welcome to London, Stephen.
Thank you. I've come this morning from a very rainy Lake District to a very sunny London. I think it's worth emphasizing we're trying to talk about what we're seeing is happening in the market. We're trying to talk about what we think best practice is. And I think through that, there will be elements that are of use to all law firm leaders, wherever you are in the world, whatever size of firm you're from. And if you want to talk to either of us about any different points or points that we have discussed, then please do reach out and talk to us, and we'll come back to you and have a further conversation.
We're going to be looking today at the partnership journey in 10 steps. And I think my personal reflection as a starting point would be the law firms we work with had an exceptional time during COVID. They've grown, they've done very well. And I don't know if you remember the managing partner that said to us, they did so well during the COVID period, they needed to retain their young lawyers, that when the train pulled into the station and the doors of the train opened, they pulled anyone they could off the platform into the train and they made them partners. And now with more of an uncertain future going forward, they're thinking how to get the most out of these partners. So what are you seeing?
Well, I think it's a really misunderstood part of this journey to partnership. I think in the old days, it was the deep end theory of partnership. You know, you suddenly wake up one morning and you're told you're a partner. You're not quite sure what that means, and you're not quite sure what you now do differently. Yeah. And I think working with the associates that you've got in that group that may not all, but some of them will come through to partnership, to make them fully understand the role of partner and the things they need to focus on as associates to become partners. And
just to be controversial, do you think that the younger generation do want to become partners?
I think that's a very good point. And I think we're going to come on in a later podcast to talk about money. And as the gap between what we're paying senior associates and junior partners compresses, the so-called compression issue, then I think we will see more associates saying, well, wait a minute, for a few more dollars, I'm not sure I want to be that partner, particularly when I look around at the role models. You know, we are, as partners, I think, really bad role models. Nobody wants the job we have, and we need to change that dialogue.
So I've been helping a law firm, as you know, on their partnership preparation. And the question that the partners say is, do I think any of them want to become partners? And I asked the managing partner, well, how are you defining this partnership role? I guess it goes back to your point about, are we clear of the role and is there ambiguity about the role? And the best that the managing partner could do is to say, who are the young lawyers that are willing to walk through fire? So I was able to say to him, well, the good news is that some of them, but definitely not all of them, will be willing to walk through fire. However, to some extent, their expectations have changed quite broadly since the days that you started as a partner in the law firm. Yes, there are people that are willing to work very hard and willing to commit. There is almost an expectation that they can get home sometimes to pick up the kids from school and that they'll be back on the email later. And it's obviously clear from some of the firms we work with that some of them are back on the email later and some of them aren't. And those that do that pick up the kids, put them to bed at night and then go back on the email, if they have another half, a partner who is doing the same, I just wonder how these young people are going to survive. So the question I've got is, some are committed and some aren't. And those that are very committed are working in a real pressure cooker. And I just don't know if it's sustainable.
Well, I agree that pressure cooker isn't sustainable. But the other thing I like about persuading firms to adopt this path to partnership program is it makes the firms think about the issues you've just raised, as well as the individuals. It's a two-way street in this program. And I think, to the point we were just talking about, firms have to be clear on the advantages of being a partner. Yeah. The fact that it's a good thing to be a partner, and spend some time talking to the people you want to be partners about the benefits and indeed the joy, and I genuinely mean that, the joy of being a partner. I think it can be a great job. Yeah. And what we need to do is, as all the separate law firms around the world, think about how we get that message out with regard to being a partner in our firm.
Yeah, I'm smiling to myself because we have had a few firms where this question of what is the expectation of our current partners, in particular our equity partners, if it's not handled, it can become like a bad smell. And over time, that's the smell that's going to get worse. But I remember working with you on various projects where the way to unlock what we expect of each other, it's a bit like being married, isn't it, to be a partner in a firm. The way to unlock that is to think, what do we expect of the next generation and how are we going to prepare them? What are the competencies required and how are we going to select them? And then you feed that into the process, you work on that. And then once you define the role for the new arrivals, you can say further down the track, oh, by the way, to what extent are we as a current partners able to put our hands on our hearts and say we're doing that ourselves? It might be a sort of gentler route into that partner performance piece.
I think one of the things that resonates with me in terms of a broader overview of what it means to be a partner in a law firm, I think it's about leaving the firm in a better shape than it was when I became a partner. And I think having that longer term view, that sense of it isn't about me, it's about the firm I'm part of. We need to keep reminding ourselves in all these discussions that the word partner means the coming together of individuals to achieve a common goal together. Yeah. And having, as some firms have experienced, a great deal of focus on the money as opposed to the other attributes and responsibilities of a partner might work for the short term, but actually isn't building either the firm that is sustainable and robust for the future, or indeed one that will last many years.
So we'll get onto the collaboration point later, but is there not a basic contradiction between the autonomy and independence of the partner, the partnership model, and the autonomy and independence as guaranteed by the law society in whichever country you're in, versus this new need to collaborate in a more corporate way? Is there not a basic contradiction between those two rules?
I don't see it as a contradiction. I do see it as somewhat challenging, that we want partners to be entrepreneurial, but we want them to do it in a team environment, in a collaborative environment. And again, for me, it comes back to, we're not calling ourselves managing directors. Yeah. Some firms do, but what we really mean is partners. And those partners are partners with other partners to achieve the common goal. And therefore, I do think you can be both entrepreneurial and collaborative. And indeed, I would argue, you can be better in terms of an entrepreneur, in terms of the client relationship you build and the way you serve the client through that very collaboration.
So some of your people will be entrepreneurial and able to step up to the plate. What about the rest? What are we doing with them?
So we all have different strengths, but I'm not a fan of this idea of, oh, that partner's a bit nerdy, we leave them in the back room. They're not a rainmaker. Yeah. For me, if a firm is trying to build strong client relationships, which I believe is the key to the success of any firm, all partners should be able to contribute to the success of those client relationships. We will do it in different ways because we have different strengths and different weaknesses. But I'm a fan of getting all partners involved in client relationships. I am not saying all partners need to be involved in marketing, because some partners know how to work a room and some don't. What I am saying, though, is at the base, we require all our partners to be responsible for client relationships. And through better client relationships, you get more work, you get better pricing, and you get your bills paid.
Understood. And are we expecting the same level of commitment from every partner? So is it that every partner has to run at the same speed, or will we get more multi-speed partnerships going forward as people go through different stages of their career, different stages of their life? They might have children, they might have elderly parents.
I accept your premise. Yeah. I think law firms are realizing that they have to have a system of performance and contribution allied to their remuneration system that supports much greater flexibility than in the old days. You're now a partner. You now need to contribute at exactly the same level as all other partners, both financially and in terms of those other contributions. I think there's a growing realization that that always was, but is unrealistic. Therefore, the emphasis, which again we're going to talk about in another podcast, on analyzing partners' performance so that you can both fairly remunerate, but also you can support partners' development appropriately through the stages of their career.